Thank you, Marty, for that kind introduction. I have to say it's an improvement on one I received from my senior senator from Tennessee. Lamar Alexander and I were working together a couple of years ago on something called the Competes Bill. And he wanted me to come over to the Senate and bring up what we were doing on the House, bring the senators up to speed on it. And he introduced me by saying, this is my friend, Bart Gordon. He's the dean of our Tennessee congressional delegation. But then he quickly added, dean doesn't mean he's the smartest, just means he's been here the longest. And I know with this group here today, I'm certainly not the smartest person on energy policy, but that's never stopped a politician from pontificating, so I'll be happy to give you some of my views. As you all know, the Obama administration and the leadership in the House and Senate have all indicated their intentions to move the country in a new direction to address our energy needs and to address climate change. That said, there is still much to do to develop a policy and to pass legislation. There are many moving parts to Washington, and as we know, the devil is in the details. And so as this policy machine starts to work through, we have to make all the pieces fit together. However, we already know that there are additional resources available for energy over the next 2 years, including almost $40 billion for energy programs, a multi-year extension of the Renewable Energy Tax Credit, $134 billion in loan authority, and we are expecting to see a ramp up in additional funding and investments during the FY09 appropriation. But it's still going to be necessary to attract a great deal more of private sector money into this project. Both Speaker Pelosi and Minority Leader Reid have indicated their intention to move climate and energy legislation by this summer and to hopefully have a conference report ready to vote on by the fall. And I'm sure you're all interested to know what the chances are for these guidelines to be met and a bill to be passed. And given the unknowns, I cannot handicap that for you now, but there are three things I firmly believe. One, at some point there will be a mandate to reduce carbon emissions. Secondly, there will be a renewable electricity standard. And finally, we cannot get here from there without new technology. In addition to the legislative path for carbon emission reduction, there's also the possibility of a regulatory path. Already, EPA Administrator Jackson has announced her intention to regulate carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions in vehicles. Congressional leaders in both chambers hope to combine both climate and energy legislation into one package. Clearly, there's a nexus between energy and climate. The practical results of this will be multiple committees in both chambers working together on a single bill. This will be difficult, but this is the direction, and they're taking now. Pros and cons can be made out of doing it in one bill, but I think you're certainly going to see the effort to combine them at least first out. It may wind up being the combination not initially in the middle, at the end, rather at the first. It could wind up being in conference at the end. In addition to serving on the Energy and Commerce Committee, I'm also chairman of the Science and Technology Committee, as Marty pointed out, and we'll be working on several energy and climate R&D provisions. I'll mention a few of the new things we're working on and some of the work we're doing to ensure that energy legislation we developed in the last Congress is implemented as intended. Energy efficiency and conservation will have the greatest near-term impact of any approach to the energy problem. We'll never find cheaper, cleaner energy than that we don't use. While there were a number of provisions included in the last two energy bills, the fragmented nature of these energy efficiency programs at DOE makes prioritization of the energy research agenda a challenge and a necessity. Additionally, the interest in all flavors of advanced vehicles suggests it's time to take a close look at DOE's vehicle research program, including heavy-duty trucks. Our attention will also be focused on monitoring, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas emissions. Basically, we need to know who is emitting, what are they emitting, and if the control programs we put into place are reducing emissions. Our committee wants to build upon existing systems where possible and authorize new systems where needed to ensure that we accurately account for greenhouse gas emissions and achieve our reduced goals. As the committee continues to work on these new initiatives, we are also working to advance programs that we enacted in the last Congress. In response to the recommendation by the National Academies of Science, I passed legislation establishing an Advanced Research Projects Agency for Energy, or ARPA-E. This is a new research organization within DOE modeled after DARPA and was really the basis of the article that Marty mentioned. In order to make the kind of technological leaps we need to transform the ways in which we produce and use energy, we must rethink how we approach energy R&D. This nimble new agency will be staffed with extraordinary people, armed with resources and the very important freedom to take risk. ARPA-E will enable us to forge new partnerships between the government, our national labs, academia, and industry to draw upon the best talents and the resources of each of these sectors. Secretary Chu has $400 million to establish ARPA-E and hopefully $1 billion or more each year thereafter. Additionally, I believe an expanded focus on carbon capture and sequestration is also vitally important for our future. Coal is the most widely used fuel in our utility sector. The question we must grapple with is how are we going to continue to utilize the valuable, abundant fuel that provides so much of our electric power and achieve greenhouse gas reductions. It will only occur by reducing emissions through a robust use of carbon capture and sequestration, which is an essential part of this question. And my committee will be working closely with Secretary Chu to ensure we devote sufficient resources to move this technology forward. And as you may know, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act included $10 million to develop a framework for information management that will help us to achieve interoperability of smart grid devices and systems. This work is currently managed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, and we will continue to monitor their progress. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I point out the importance of energy storage devices as a means to achieve cleaner, more efficient energy production. Deploying energy storage technologies has two great benefits. It is a great equalizer for renewables, and it helps to limit the need to upgrade transmissions and distribution facilities. Because our economy relies heavily on an affordable and reliable electricity delivery system, the energy security benefits achieved from greater use of energy storage systems would be significant. And I also want to touch quickly on nuclear power. I believe it would be difficult, if not impossible, to meet our targeted reductions in emissions without it. This calls for a fair and reasonable discussion about the future of nuclear power, most specifically about storage and reprocessing. And I will make the Committee of Science and Technology a venue for that conversation. And finally, what is clear is to significantly reduce carbon emissions will involve the development and deployment of a wide range of new technologies. There is no silver bullet to solve this problem. What we need is silver buckshot. And in conclusion, last week at President's Summit on Healthcare, Tom Donahue, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce president, summed up his perspective by saying, if you don't get in this game, you're on the menu. Clearly, difficult decisions are ahead. But it's important for all stakeholders to not rush to judgment, to be a part of the conversation, and to look at it in a holistic way for the benefit of us all. Thank you, Marty.